If you want to see butterflies in the garden, you think you'd be helping by growing milkweeds year-round, right? Wrong. In this video, I'm going to show you the correct ways to growing milkweed so that you can actually enjoy these butterflies without harming them. As monarch butterfly population has been in a decline, it's so important for us to grow these plants to host these caterpillars. And there's actually various types of milkweed plants. First, let's talk about what milkweed is. It is the only plants that would feed these monarch caterpillars, which means it is a plant that would attract these beneficial insects besides butterflies, besides monarch butterflies actually, different types of butterflies, solitary bees, just beneficial insects will be attracted to these flowers, and the butterflies will go and drink the nectar. And along the way, these monarch butterflies would also be laying eggs on this plant. So yes, this is a host plant for the caterpillars, the monarch caterpillars. There's actually a variety of milkweeds that you can grow. The native ones, which would be the best kind, I think, if you don't tend to do the little bit of that extra work. So find the ones that are native to your location. For me, in Southern California, it's the ones that have more of that narrow leaves, so they would actually die back in the winter for us. You can also grow tropical ones, which I will talk to you about how to take care of them the right way. But for me, growing in, the tropical types of milkweeds, it's totally fine and I enjoy them so much. In fact, those butterflies lay eggs like crazy on these types of milkweeds. But the thing is, I live in Southern California. We hardly ever get a frost here, so these plants won't die back. If you want to grow tropical milkweed and you're in a more southern areas where it doesn't get a frost, you would have to cut them back in order to help sustain these butterflies. There's also milkweeds that grow in the swamp. There's a type that even has a vanilla scent. I have been trying to grow that one, so hopefully that's a project for another season. But there's another kind of these tropical ones. I really love just how these flowers are, and they are the broader leaf milkweeds, or like the Twetia or the heavenly blue Twetias that have these beautiful blue star-shaped flowers that they just, all these milkweeds come in clusters, so they're just so gorgeous. I love that heavenly blue color. Reminds me of like a painting of the Starry Nights or something. And there's the other kind that with giant leaves that are so beautiful with these lavender blue color that almost looks iridescent, and the flowers are much bigger than the other types. But the ones that actually attract the most butterflies around here, I have different types of milkweeds that has just the yellow color flowers. Somehow I lost that plant, but there's the other ones that has the yellow orange flowers, and the ones called hairy balls is actually one of my favorites because it's very hardy. They actually form these seed pods that are these balls, if you don't collect them in time, they would fly everywhere. And yeah, it's kind of like a weed. So if you want to control them, you can cut them back, collect those balls before the balls, fly everywhere. But otherwise, it has been the most hardy milkweed in this area. And I see butterflies hovering around them all the time here. And they seem to choose this type of milkweed compared to other types that I grow to lay eggs. So I often would see these caterpillar, hanging on there and eating and munching on these leaves. It's a really magical sight to see, especially coming out and seeing these butterflies gliding in the wind. It's just so beautiful. All milkweeds require full sun to grow, but at least in part sun. Especially in Southern California, the sun can be quite strong in the warmer season, so I can get away with growing them even in part sun or part shade. I have one that's growing in the north side of the garden, and it really just gets sun maybe up till noon. So the first half of the day it gets sun, no intense sunlight at all, but it flowers just fine, and it creates these beautiful puffy hairy balls spiky balls. Let's talk about how to actually care for them. Like I mentioned before, if you live in a southern region that actually doesn't get a frost, these plants will not die back on their own, or in case they don't, you actually want to cut them back. And the reason is because you don't want those OE parasites, which I'll leave that long name here for you. It is a type of parasites that may be carried by certain monarch butterflies. And these parasites can really damage the health of these butterflies. They can come out with really messed up wings. They can be more sickly. The wings, you can tell these ones that have been infected by this parasite, the wings would be a bit more pale, more dull orange. There might be even like darker spots on their belly. They basically would carry these parasites around, usually on kind of like dust, on their wings or on their belly. And that's why when they hover over these plants to feed on the nectar, they can also be rubbing these spores onto infecting the plants, the leaves, and then when they lay the eggs on these milkweed, the caterpillars will be munching on these and literally be ingesting these parasites, and they might grow out even looking deformed. And that's why it's really crucial when you're growing milkweeds, especially not the native type that would automatically die back on their own. The tropical ones especially, they usually won't die back, at least for in southern areas. Like I mentioned earlier, if you live in the colder places, everything will just die back, so it's not a problem. But for us in the warmer areas, make sure you cut them back. So I generally would cut them back like 3 times a year, like a few times a year if possible. But at the very least, you want to cut them back once a year. And that's right around this time, between September and October, when there's a lot of monarch butterflies migrating. This is a really good time to be cutting back your milkweeds because first, you don't want to mess up with their migration. You want to help them migrate smoothly across without taking these breaks. Migration is also important because it's a way to kind of remove the not so healthy butterflies, because only the ones that are healthy would be able to make that long journey. So when we're growing milkweeds during the time they're migrating, which is actually slowing their pace down and messing up with their migration. That's why you want to cut them back. The second reason why you want to cut these plants back is because after this entire season of growth, you don't know if that plant has been infested with this parasite. So it's safer for you to cut it back down to at least down to like 6 inches, from the ground, so they can start fresh next year. Or if they are going to grow back again, like say in Southern California, our winter happens quite later, so they might grow back. And when you see them grow back, make sure you cut them back down again. You don't want to encourage these butterflies to be snacking while they are actually migrating. So the way I do it here, I try to get around cutting them back a few times a year whenever there's a lot growing and I see that there's one that's been eaten and they look pretty bare. I would just go ahead and cut that back down, sort of like doing it in a staggering method. So I cut that one down. There's other milkweeds that are still growing that they can host, the caterpillars. And then when those ones get munched down, I can also cut those back while other milkweeds are around. Another thing I want to bring to your attention is that white milky sap that bleeds out of this plant. It can be irritating to your skin, especially for those of you with sensitive skin. You don't want to get it on you, especially don't get it in your eyes. If you happen to get it on your skin, wash your hands, wash your body with some warm water and some soap as soon as possible. I've gotten them on my skin a lot when I'm kind of just plucking back with my bare hands. I don't feel the itch or any kind of irritations, but it's still best to wash your hands up afterwards. Something else you might find in these milkweeds are these milkweed beetles. Don't worry about them because they won't attack other plants. They only pretty much lives on the milkweeds. Whenever cutting back these milkweeds, lay those stems on the ground for a couple of days. Especially, it's best to leave them next to your other milkweed plants if they're still growing. But right now, this time of year where you're supposed to cut everything back anyway, just leave these stems on the ground for a couple of days to give time to these beneficial insects and caterpillars to pretty much move out of these cuttings. Here you can see the different stages of the seed development going from left to right. The one on the right have seeds that are ready to plant. See, when you pick them up right at the time when they split, before they blow away, you can very easily collect these seeds. And these hairs, they are so gentle and so silky. And the last thing I want to share with you is actually the hardest one, which is if you happen to see these deformed monarch butterflies, the best and most compassionate way to do this is to euthanize them. And that is because you don't want to encourage more of these, infested butterflies to be spreading this parasite. And the best way to do it is to freeze them. It's never easy, but many butterfly experts recommend freezing as the most humane way to help them pass without pain. Those that cannot fly or feed are already suffering, and they can spread the same infection to future generations. Doing this thoughtfully helps protect the monarchs that are still strong enough to continue their journey. Now, do what you will with this information, but I just wanted to share this piece with you. At the end of the day, it's about giving these beautiful butterflies a chance to thrive. Caring for milkweed the right way helps restore their numbers and reminds us even small actions can make a big difference. I personally really enjoy growing milkweeds, especially that hairy ball variety. It is such a conversation starter. Everyone that comes by takes pictures of it, gets really curious what they are. These hairy balls are really beautiful in a floral arrangement, and I have seen these butterflies hovering around them the most out of the rest of the varieties, and lots of caterpillars have been raised by these milkweeds and the hairy balls in particular. So if you want to grow some of this in the garden, I'll put a link to wendylyn.com down below for you so you can get those seeds and get them growing in your garden as well in the spring. I'm going to go off and cut these plants back, and if they do resprout from now to spring, I would have to cut them back again. But yeah, I'll let them regrow back in spring. But thank you so much, you guys, for making this far in the video, and I will see you right back here again soon in the next one. Bye.